intervened on behalf of...
And now, coming to you live from atop the Goldenrod City radio tower, it's the one, the only, PUCL TCGcast!
Hello, and welcome to the 88th episode of the PUCL TCGcast with your host, Basket. Today we're looking into the meta impact of battle styles, and oh boy, did the battle styles mix it up. But it ain't just me today, folks. Today we've got none other than Seth Vilo _ the Aurora from Georgia. How's it going, man?
Hello. It's good. 88 episodes? Wow. That's a lot of
I know, man. I want to do something for the 100th episode, but I'm extremely intimidated by it.
We've got a while for that. Like, that's a year from now, quite literally. So.
Yeah, you're totally right. I didn't think about it that way. Thanks for helping me chill out on that. I
take some stress off of you. You're welcome. But yeah, Battle Styles is wacky.
Yes, it is. And there's a lot of goodness that we're going to get to. We're going to talk about the bigger decks in the format and some of the variants. And then we're going to head on to Venusaur Best. So, without further ado, I want you all to close your eyes, take a deep breath, feel the sun on your skin, the sand between your toes, and let that cool summer breeze ruffle those luscious locks as we visit Topical Beach.
Grab your ice-cold Corsola Cola and pull up a chair. It's time for Tropical Beach.
Okay, so we're going to start out with probably is this the highest usage deck, Seth? How about you take it away?
Sure. I mean, it's not necessarily the highest usage, but it's good to start off with, the deck that's really basically how each set kind of has a deck that's meant for it? Like,
yeah.
The Rebel Clash was built around kind of letting Dragapult shine. And then whatever the set is that I can't think of was like making sure that Eternatus could function. And this is now kind of one of the two decks that came out of Battle Styles, and it's one of the Battle Styles. It's Rapid Strike Urshifu, and it's got a couple of variants to it. We aren't sure from tournament type, and again, this all comes with the caveat that none of these are official tournaments because it's still COVIDing outside, as Thatch likes to say.
Yes.
So these are all kind of fan-done tournaments, not to the official level, but I mean, they are still the cards being played and people placing just like regular rules, but one of the big ones is Rapid Strike Urshifu, which is really good. Really, really freaking good. For those who don't know, the first attack, it's a lot like Golisopod in this respect, where if you were on the bench and became active that turn, you deal 150 to whatever's in front of you. And the second attack, if you discard all cards attached to it, it does 110 to two things on your opponent's field. It's kind of like sniping for the field. It's weird. It's like a combination of a couple cards, like Golisopod meets I don't know, Cramorant or something like that. But that's what Rapid Strike Urshifu VMax does, and with attacks like that, unsurprisingly, it's very good. There's a lot of support for both the first attack and the second attack, especially now that they've reprinted Escape Rope in this set, so you can be switching all over the place with this thing. There's two main varieties of Rapid Strike. There is just pure Rapid Strike, if you will, where you're really focusing on doing just the Urshifu's attacks and just battering the living daylights out of your opponent, so long as they don't have a Mew on their field blocking your snipe damage. And, for that you have boss's orders to bring it up and then continue along on your day. But you do that, some Jirachi engine, the standard Crobat Dedenne support, and run it with Nets Jirachi and Giratina now for popping special energy off of things. And Mewtwo from Unbroken Bonds, which allows you to put a supporter from your discard just on top, so you can find it with Jirachi again immediately. With all the switching that you play, you can easily grab the supporter that you need off of your discard pile. So it's really adaptable. You can do a lot of things with it. It doesn't run anything like an Octillery or really anything much other for Rapid Strike things other than the Urshifu itself. And Other than that, really standard trainer lineup. Like the researches, the Marnies, the 3 bosses. It runs a single Cheryl, which is kind of fun because the second attack makes you discard all of your cards, all of your energy. So you can heal all the damage on you if you used your second attack the last turn. But yeah, that's the straight Rapid Strike. What do you think of that one, Basket?
You know, it's funny because I feel like Urshifu's taking over everything.
Right.
It's... I mean, the video game and now the card game. And one of the things that I liked the most about the TCG, like doing both the TCG and the video game, is that 9 times out of 10, I guess this would be one of the exceptions, the Pokemon that you're using in the meta aren't for TCG aren't necessarily anything that's in the meta for the video game.
Yeah.
So this kind of, I wouldn't say bums me out, because it doesn't bum me out at all, really. Like, I think these are really cool mechanics, and I think they're like really fun. But I just thought it's worth mentioning that I think this is probably one of the first times where like a truly meta relevant Pokemon is relevant in both the TCG and video game meta.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, even comparing like the video game, Pikarom is very relevant in the TCG, but Pikachu is nowhere near relevant. Zekrom is kind of only okay in Ubers. It's kind of cool to be able to play with different things at different times. That said, I will say that it was in the OU Smogon stuff, it was the single strike variant that was the most problematic. That's what got it banned to Ubers. So it is kind of cool to have Rapid being the good one here, and Single Strike being the kind of B-tier one in TCG. So you still get kind of that feeling, a little bit. So that's kind of neat.
Weren't they kind of waffling back and forth in the VGC for a little while?
In the VGC, maybe. I'm not. I will be completely honest and say I'm not as educated in VGC specifically as I should be. I focus mainly on Smogon just because that's where I play. But VGC, I think you're right, where they're very back and forth there.
Well, this isn't a VGC topic, so let's move on.
Exactly. Exactly. There is another variant of Rapid Strike. Do you want to take a look at that one and tell us what that one's about, Basket? I took the other one.
Oh, I was going to do Single Strike, and then
go for it. Yeah,
Rapid.
We'll
plus the spice.
Go back and forth between the Urshifus.
Yeah. Okay, so for Single Strike Urshifu, you've got energy retrieval with the Houndoom. But you can kickstart that with Urshifu V if you really want to.
Those are so good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Houndoom lets you grab a single strike energy every turn, which adds 20 damage to the attack and is stackable. And this is an effort to power up VMax One Blow, which with enough single strike energy can take out, I think, any Pokemon in one hit. Like if you were able to get...
Almost. It does 270 without any augmentation. So if you've got a couple of single strike energy, one single strike energy makes it 290, another one makes it 310. Stack enough of those and you can start taking out like the 330, 340 Eternatus monsters.
Yeah.
Sans weakness, of course.
Yeah. And I think the one of my favorite little icings on the cake is that the damage isn't affected by the effects on the opponent's active. Mm-hmm. I love that. It's just like you're taking this damage. It's happening. There's nothing you can do about it.
And if I'm correct, that cracks through things like Decidueye. So
I believe
that
so.
can't even stand up to this deck.
Well, so we want to start kind of going over like some like actual deck builds when we do this. Mm-hmm. So, which is kind of new for the show. So we tried to find some that seem to be pretty reasonable, like either standard or pretty tough. So for the single strike, we've got 4 Houndour, 4 Houndoom, 4 single strike Urshifu V, 4 single strike Urshifu V Max, a Crobat, a Dedenne, a Jirachi, a Mew, 4 Professor's Research, 3 Boss's Orders, Marnie, 4 Quick Ball, 3 Pokemon Communication, 3 Urn of Vitality, 2 Switch, 1 Evolution Incense, 1 Fan of Waves, 2 single strike Scroll of Scorn, 2 Air Balloon, 2 Tower of Darkness, 4 Fighting Energy, 4 Single Strike Energy, 1 Capture Energy, and 1 Stone Fighting Energy.
So one thing that stands out as weird if you don't know what the card does is the single copy of Jirachi GX in this list, which is really cool. It has an ability that says if something would be taking Psychic-type super effective damage, it doesn't. That's both sides of the field, though, for what it's worth. But it basically means that this single strike Urshifu can stand up to things like Mewtwo and Mew, which is popping off, as well as Dragapult on the other side. It means that their weakness is nullified without having to attach a weakness guard energy or anything like that. So that's starting to see a whole lot of play in these Urshifu decks as just a one-off to throw on your bench.
You got to keep your big teddy bears safe.
Yeah. And the weird thing about this, too, is that you'd think with all the special energy, it runs all special energy in this particular list. And you'd think, oh gosh, that's really risky with like Giratina and Scroll of Waves, Fan of Waves, pardon me. But you always can find them with the Houndoom, and the Urn of Vitality is just a special charge for single strike energy. So you almost never run out of single strike energy. It's wild. Like sometimes you can run down the specials on Rapid Strike, not for this one because they can just get them back instantly. And you max out the single strike Pokemon list because you have Tower of Darkness as a stadium in here, where you discard a single strike thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Pokemon, and draw 2. It's great. It's like Scorching Sands or Scorching Earth. What was that? What was that stadium? Whatever. Scorched Earth.
I can't.
I don't know. And the other cool thing about there's so much synergy with single strike that Rapid just doesn't have because the cards are better. But single has so much built-in synergy with itself. Like Houndoom, the caveat to attaching a single strike energy to something and accelerating that energy is you drop 2 damage counters on the thing that you attach to. Yeah, boo, it kind of stinks. You start building up a whole lot of damage on your single strikes, especially if you stack Houndoom, and you can attach more than one per turn. But the single strike Scroll of Scorn for a single fighting type energy gives you another attack, which is just fighting type outrage. The more damage you have, the more it does. And it's got like 330 HP, so not much is one-shotting it, especially if the weakness is turned off with Jirachi. So you will probably have to 2-hit KO this thing, upon which it will beat you down with the Scroll of Scorn attack for 1 fighting energy after it discarded all the others last turn. It's wild.
Yeah, and that's just awesome to me because like Pokemon's all about math essentially. You know, what can I take? What can't I take? And Scroll of Scorn is just like this awesome little wild card that you can throw out there. It's like okay, I'm pretty sure like you're up against one of these decks and you're like, all right, okay, I'm pretty sure that if I do it this way, okay, the math works out perfect. Throw something out there, takes a hit, bring it back out so you can go again. And it's like, oh no, actually this thing was just smacked. It is gone now. And you're just sitting there with your hands and your face in your hands.
Yeah. Like, I've been playing a lot of Corviknight, which we'll talk about later. I'm almost scared to attack the darn thing, because if I do 240 to it, it's going to do that right back to me, plus more next turn with this Scroll of Scorn attack. It's dumb.
Oh, yeah, dude. A lot of the YouTube videos I've been watching on it as well, like, that's a regular thing. They're like, okay, well, I could stack more damage counters on this single strike Urshifu, but if I do that, then now I have this other set of problems that I have to deal with. You know? So, yeah. It makes it like scary to try to win.
At least it's stoppable by Tool Scrapper. At least that's the thing.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
But yeah, single strike is not bad. It's very scary.
All right. Do we want to move on to the Rapid plus Spice?
Spicy Rapid Strike. I love it. This one is just really, the other Rapid Strike you can choose really between if you want to do the weird attack and the Golisopod attack or the damage to bench attack. This one goes really hard into the damage to bench, as well as having just weirdly synergistic typing with each other. It is Rapid Strike Urshifu with Dragapult. Specifically VMax, if we needed to say that. It's not the little coin flippy Dragapult baby one. It's the good one. And because this one doesn't play the Jirachi GX. It plays the regular ones with Stellar Wish, so you can find things. But the idea is you start with Dragapult and start laying damage counters out where you need them on the field, and then wrap it up with Rapid Strike and take, a bunch of KOs in one turn. They also work really well with each other based on weakness, because a lot of Psychic are still weak to Psychic, so the things targeting down Urshifu will be hit hard by Dragapult. And Dragapult by itself is weak to Eternatus, which is still very good right now. Very, very popular. And Urshifu eats that for breakfast. So, it's really good. The trainer lineup, it also, in this particular list that we have, as far as support Pokemon, I mentioned the Jirachi. It runs very thin on support Pokemon. It has the 2 Crobat and 1 Kricketune, which lets you draw up. It's kind of cool. Trainers, it's got the standard Research Marnie and 3 Bosses Orders. This particular one plays Crushing Hammer. You can forego those for other things if you always flip tails like me. It's got the Quick Balls, standard 4-count Switch, 3 Great Ball, which is kind of weird on this one because you don't normally see that, but you can run through your deck pretty quickly overall, so you can find things with your Great Ball. It's got Escape Rope for the switching. That combos with the actual physical Switch cards too. It's got 2 Fan of Waves because it's really energy denial-y because you're not doing a lot of damage up front. You're doing a lot of setup damage and bench setup damage and things like that. So you want to delay your opponent getting off a big attack as much you can. So the Fan of Waves, the Crushing Hammer, the 2 of those together really help with that. Then Evolution Incense, Air Balloon, and the energy count's real freaky. 5 Psychic Energy, 4 Rapid Strike Energy, which, as you might remember, counts for 2 on Rapid Strike Pokemon, and 3 Horror Psychic Energy just to keep adding those damage counters to things that dare touch Dragapult.
Yeah, that's a nice little cherry on top right there.
Yeah. If you ask me, and Basket and I were talking about this before we started recording, if you ask me personally, I think this is the way to run Dragapult right now. There are some pure Dragapult lists. We were going to talk about one that did really well at the first tournament that someone had where they had allowed battle styles. That one was just straight Dragapult with Omastar and a Blacephalon. But I think it's kind of adapted now that this is the way to play Dragapult if you still have those cards and want to use them. Because Eternatus is still huge. That it's going to be 4 decks kind of in balance with each other, where it's the Urshifu, the Mewtwo, the Pikarom, the Dragapult-ish Eternatus. There's a lot. Like, it's not just 3, like it has been in the past. It's really cool how a lot of things can be viable. The next one we're going to talk about is really wacky and really cool, but it's still just as viable as the big ones, if you will. Almost the best deck in format. There is no real true one and only best deck in format right now. That's what I like about it. Even ADPZ is having trouble because it has to have a turn where it does no damage. So it's having a little bit of difficulty right now against the monsters like Single or Rapid Strike, or even like the Spiritomb thing we'll talk about later. Like it has trouble. But yeah, that's the Dragapult plus Rapid Strike. One of the cooler decks if you like laying damage on your opponent's bench. So, yeah.
Okay, so we will move from here onto Victini VMax, or as I like to call it, Boss Game.
Not wrong.
So Victini's fast, super low maintenance, and it can one-hit KO almost all V Pokemon for 2 energy with its 220 damage output, if of course the Pokemon is a Pokemon V. Also, Victini wants to go first. It's a pretty strong choice to go first because it's just 2 energy for that attack. But if you want to throw a Reshiram, Charizard Tag Team, and a Welder, you could go second and fire off a turn 1 Double Blaze GX, if you've got those in your hand, for 200 damage on your first turn. And then Boss's Orders is important in every single deck. These cards have been important in the meta since they were created. But this is pretty important for this deck specifically because it's pretty reliant on being able to switch out those V Pokemon and take them out before they can VMax, just for that clean hit. My favorite part about this, though, is that it annihilates ADP, but Aegislash can sit these matches out, please. That would be helpful. And I would also like to mention this deck works best going really quickly, but I just wanted to mention Spreading Flames. It's not optimal, but because it allows you to snag 3 energy and put them on whatever Pokemon you want on your bench or in the active, it really helps you in a tight spot. So that's a good little synergy on the same Pokemon that you're using to take things out with.
Yeah.
And also, knock out every single Snom that you see.
Yes. Oh my word. water decks can pop off too. Like that's so cool about this current meta is like there's nothing that's just completely squashed and suffocated. Like Inteleon has been doing very good right now.
Yeah, and Lapras is pretty strong too. I think it's pretty strong. For the card list, we have 1 Cramorant, 1 Crowbrat.
Buckle up.
Crowbrat. 1 Heatran, 1 Reshiram and Charizard GX, 4 Victini V, 1 Charizard GX, 3 Victini VMax, 1 Eldegoss, 1 Kricketune, 2 Dedenne, wow, I can't speak. 1 Marshadow, 1 Mew, 2 Mewtwo, and Mew GX. That's the tag team.
Yep.
And then for trainer cards, we've got Escape Rope, 2 of those, 1 Fan of the Waves, 3 Giant Hearth, 4 Welder, 4 Quick Ball, 1 Tool Jammer, 2 Air Balloon, 4 Boss's Orders, 1 Fire Crystal, 1 Professor's Research, 4 Pokemon Communication, and 2 Switch, with 11 Fire Energy.
The Tool Jammer is really cool in this one. Like I would have expected Tool Scrapper, but Tool Jammer is cool too. If you don't know what that does, it itself is a tool, and when it's attached to something, like say a Victini, any of the opponent's active's tools don't work. So, for instance, if you put a, Giant Crystal, or whatever, the thing that adds 30 health, on a Zacian, or a Metal Goggles on a Zacian, I don't know, something like that. Something that allows a V to avoid the 220 damage. It just doesn't, so the Jammer just makes it so it doesn't work, and it's like a permanent tool scrapper, if you will, if you have it on the right attacker.
Yeah, it's a really cool tech.
Yeah, and if the Victini like targeting down V Pokemon doesn't work, you've always got Mewtwo and Mew to just blow something up utilizing Charizard's attack. That GX attack just does 300. So you've got options. That's what's cool about this deck. It has a lot of ways around a lot of different opponents.
Yeah, and so there's 4 Welder in here, and that's to power up your other ones if you can't get Victini running, or there's something weird going on with their deck where they don't have a lot of V Pokemon, because Welder's definitely not needed. I mean, you're just putting the 2 Fire Energy down there, but it super helps out when Victini can't do its job.
Mm-hmm. Or if you miss one, like you are not behind if you just miss an attachment on a Victini, because its cost only is 2 Fire Energy. So for a Welder, you've got it fully powered.
Yep.
It's wild. This is one of the other decks I want to build and play with. One thing to note, the Victini V you want to use, there are 2, is the one from Sword and Shield base set, not the one that came out with Battle Styles. That one's not as good as the Sword and Shield one, just attacks-wise. So.
All right, let's move on to our favorite bird.
My baby! My baby! I want it to work so badly, and I'm having so much bad luck with this poor deck. I'll get it, though. I've just got to find the right list, and I feel like this one we're going to look at is a good start. I've already made a couple changes on my own personal one, but Corviknight VMax is super cool, and the whole idea is you do 240, you move those energies off utilizing Bronzong that came out in this set, because it lets you just move Steel-type energy whenever, wherever you want. Not limited in a turn or anything, it's just whenever and wherever. So you do 240, you absorb a hit, then you use the new supporter card, Cheryl, which allows you to heal all damage from all of your evolution Pokemon, and if you do that, discard all energy attached to them. So with Bronzong, just yanking all the energy off of the Corviknight, you just heal it completely, and then you put the energies back, and rinse and repeat. So the deck list idea that we've got here that looks really good, in my opinion, having played a lot of Corviknight. It's a 3-3 line of Corviknight VMax. It's a 2-2 line of Bronzong, and you want to use, there's some debate on the Bronzor that you want to use. Go ahead and use the one from Battle Styles, because in a meta where Dragapult is popping off, 60 HP is better than 50 HP. So, yeah. Because the other one lets you evolve on turn 2 if you go second. It's okay. It's not as good as just reliably being able to set it down versus a Dragapult list, because that feels bad, yo. Then it's got 2 Crobat, 2 Zacian V as a basic steel type that you can target. You can bounce between the Corviknight and the Zacian to do 230, 240. back and forth, because each one of them has the little thing saying, you can't use this attack next turn. So, okay, I'll just move all 3 of the energy from the Corviknight to the Zacian. The Corviknight has free retreat, too, so even easier. Like, that's wild to me. It also lets you set up early before you've gotten the Corviknight out, before you've gotten the Bronzong out. You can start setting metal energy on the field using Intrepid Sword. It's very good. You've also got an Eldegoss here to find any supporters that you need, particularly the Cheryl, if you need a heal or, boss for game, something like that. And finally, as your GX attacker, you've got Lucario and Melmetal GX. Its GX attack makes it so you take 30 less damage for the rest of the game, and if it's got 2 on there, you discard all the energy on your opponent's active, which is great for things that like to stack energy. For instance, a single strike Pokemon that's almost fully charged up. You can just be like, no, those are gone now. So, real handy there. The trainers are mostly standard for a type of deck like this. It's got 4 Marnie because you're trying to disrupt as much as possible, and healing yourself is one form of disruption, and Marnieing your opponent for 4 separate times is another form. This one runs 3 Cheryl. You can bring that down to 2 if you wish. That's the healing card. Bird Keeper lets you switch. It's got 2 of those. 2 Research, 2 Boss's Orders. This one runs 1 Skyla. Again, that's cuttable if you wish, because that's a pretty heavy supporter count overall. Skyla lets you search out an item. Sometimes it's useful. Then, standard items for a metal deck: 4 Metal Saucer, 4 Quick Ball, 2 Pokemon Communication, 2 Evolution Incense, because you can seek out both Corviknight and Bronzong with it, 2 Switch, a Tool Scrapper, and a Pal Pad. And then, 10 Metal Energy, and 3 Coating Metal Energy. As a reminder, that makes you have no weakness if you're a Steel type. Pardon me, Metal type. What am I doing? So, yeah, that's this list for Corviknight. I make a couple little changes. I really like Mew in mine to block the Rapid Strike from just bopping a Bronzong on my bench. I personally also really like Metal Goggles to make it even thicker and also stop damage counter drop. So, the Mew plus a couple Goggles makes it really hard for that Rapid Strike plus Dragapult deck to break. But yeah, Corviknight, it's getting better. Like, we've scoured the tournament results. Basket and I did this a little bit before we're recording, and there were some. You said there was one where it won, and I've seen a couple where it made it to like top 8.
Yeah. There's I think there's at least 3 at top 8, 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's getting there. Like, the first couple of tournaments, it was hot garbage, and I think people are just finding the optimal deck list for this thing, because it's weird. It's not a typical Pokemon, because you've got that building around the full heal every other turn that you need to. But yeah, Bronzong is wild for this. Like, Metal has never had so much support in its life.
Yeah.
Bronzong being what it is, it enables a whole lot of other really, really weird decks, particularly if your attack cost is primarily colorless. So we were seeing a couple go crazy. Like, I saw a Salamence. You saw a Togekiss, Basket?
Yeah, Togekiss. I honestly, I didn't look too hard into it, but there was a Togekiss that was, like, that made it in a top 3, and then another one that was in top 5, and I need to, like, I put it on here to mention it for, like, if anybody wanted to look into it. I don't know, because I look at the Togekiss VMax, and I'm like, how does this, like, I get what Bronzong does to help it, because it's colorless, but how does this work? So I gotta do, like, my due diligence on the actual deck itself. But I was like, wow, Togekiss VMax, and then Salamence is cool, because I really like Salamence, and to be able to find a way to get that deck to start running is pretty cool.
Yeah, the Togekiss I kind of want to build, because that attack that it has is just so cool, and it's another one that has free retreat, so you can do a lot of things with it. The attack for Togekiss, if you don't know, it's not been a good card up till this point, except for Expanded. Max Glide is its attack. It does 120, which isn't a lot, but the effect is you may search your deck.
Oh, man.
Oh, were you? That would explain it.
Oh, man.
But yeah, the Togekiss VMax Max Glide do 120, ain't a lot, but then search your deck for 2 cards and put them into your hand. So you have a way to always have what you need the next turn. That's what's cool about the Togekiss.
Oh yeah.
And you run
I'm
it with a
seeing
bunch
now.
of situational things. Ugh. And they typically have the Zacian on there as a metal saucer target. They also run the Zamazenta more often because you can find the things that you need to get Zamazenta working and completely block almost all the VMaxes. It's not going to stop a single strike, as we talked about, because that just goes right through the ability. But it can stop a lot of other things like Rapid Strike and other nonsense. So the Togekiss is really fun if you have a big brain and can figure out what exactly you're going to need next turn. It's very susceptible to Marnie, I will say that. But the other wild one, we kind of looked at this one, Basket. Ditto and Bronzong is stupid. That's just, like, you thought... Because the cool thing about Bronzong, it doesn't say Metal Basic, it says Metal Energy, which includes Aurora. So, you can be laying down Aurora Energy on top of Metal Energy to just fill out any attack costs, and start moving the Aurora Energy around to whatever it is that you need to take on whatever you're facing. It's absolutely ridiculous. Are you facing an Eternatus deck? Then slap down that Ditto, and then grab yourself the Rhyperior that you discarded early in the game, switch it out, throw the Aurora Energy on it, and one-shot an Eternatus. It's stupid. Absolutely dumb. The Indeedee is even lethal because it's got the Psychic, and it does more damage for each Psychic the opponent's active has. Mewtwo likes to stack a lot of energy. So if they drop a Mewtwo, which is kind of something that you kind of can't expect in current meta, because it can be dropped all of a sudden out of nowhere, and just suddenly you have to look at your opponent's discard pile. But they drop a Mewtwo, you've got the Ditto on your bench, you drop Indeedee, and just switch it, and just knock it out. It's stupid. And if you could play it with the ADP as well, you get 4 prizes off of a Mewtwo if you altered creation. Dumb deck. Again, though, this requires a brain the size of Arkansas in order to really play effectively. But if you want to have some fun and not ever be backed into a corner, this is the deck to play. This Ditto Bronzong toolbox deck. So cool.
Yeah, I love that. Just like, oh, well, what do I want to play?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll throw a Ditto in and then I'll play everything.
Yeah, and you have so many options. Battle Styles unlocked so many things. Like, it was getting a little bit stale at the end of whatever the last set was. What was that? Whatever it is. I mean,
yeah.
My brain is not keeping track of them because I haven't been able to buy cards or had the motivation to do so in a while. But, like, Battle Styles just makes it so it's so cool to play things again. Between the new cards and the reprints and sudden synergies that didn't happen before, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm getting excited again.
Yeah. If I could ever find some cards at Target, maybe I'll go actually purchase them, but that's not looking likely.
All right. So, with that, we will move on to our favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
Before you marches a titan. Do not be ashamed of the fear inside you. Embrace it as you witness the Venusaur best.
Look, you guys, it's a Venusaur!
All right, so we are back and we are here with the Venusaur best. Seth, what is your pick?
All right. Now, last segment I said you have to have a brain the size of Arkansas for doing the Ditto list. I specifically did not choose the biggest state in the Union because that size of brain is required for this deck list. This is Spiritomb, which got a couple of really cool tools with battle styles, namely the reprint of Escape Rope is what's really allowing this to pop off. For those of you who don't know, Spiritomb has an attack, Anguish Cry, I think it is. It does 10 base, and then 30 more for each damage counter on the Spiritomb. That's the gimmick. So you try to load up as much damage on that Spiritomb as possible. It has an ability that lets you put 1 damage counter on it per turn. Mounting Dread? Something like that. Building Spike. Building Spike, that's it. It only has 60 hit points, though. But Cape of Toughness exists, which gives you 50 extra hit points. So doing some quick math, that's 110 maximum HP. So 100 if you don't want to knock yourself out. So 10 damage counters on the Spiritomb, if you are at maximum damage, does 310 damage to whatever's in front of it. Which is stupid for a one-prize attacker that only costs 1 energy to use the attack. Dumb! Now, how do I get all this damage on this Spiritomb, you might be asking yourself. Well, sweet chickadees, I've got the stadium for you. It's Spikemuth, which when you on your turn go from the active slot to the bench, the thing that was in the active slot and is now on the bench takes 2 damage counters on it. So, if you play a bunch of switching cards, you can start stacking that damage really, really quickly. So that's why this deck plays 4 Switch, 4 Escape Rope, Scoop Up Nets to make your Jirachis pop up into your hand again and recycle them and cause a bunch more switches, Bird Keepers as a primary supporter, anything that has the word switch on it that isn't Malo and Lana because that says the dreaded word heal on it, you play in this deck and you almost max it out. So you're bouncing you're bouncing back and forth between the active slot, and probably, if you're playing this in person, annoying the ever-loving crap out of your opponent because you might play 3 Escape Rope in a turn. So they've got to pick a new active every single time, and you're like, no, I don't like that one. Let's try a different one. Use Escape Rope again. There's a lot of pick up, put down with this deck. You can run the timer out with this one.
It's so funny to me because I'm thinking right now about like the opponent playing a Spiritomb deck and just playing with my heartstrings. Like they do Escape Rope and I'm like, okay, great, I get to put my attacker back out there. And then they're like, okay, another Escape Rope.
And you can cycle through this deck immensely quickly because of all the switching happening. You only play 2 Jirachi, Stellar Wish ones to be specific. But you've got Scoop Up Net, you've got switches to let them reset, you've got all sorts of things to just keep hunting through your deck for the switching cards you need. If you are going second, you can do like 270 damage turn 2 of the entire game. Not your turn 2, turn 2 of the game. Because you just attach 1 energy, Mounting Dread, switch, boom! Explode the thing in front of you. It's wild. The other cards in here that you play for just getting that Spiritomb online and going is Crobat and Dedenne for standard support. You've got a Mew for protecting your bench, which is very important with this one because a lot of your Spiritomb are going to be only a couple of damage off from being knocked out at all times. Then you also have an Oricorio GX, which if a Pokemon was knocked out last turn, lets you draw 3. Keep hunting down those switching cards because Spiritomb will be knocked out. That's just a fact.
By the way,
they will be knocked regularly.
I love that they made an Oricorio GX. I feel like it's just
too.
I feel like it's just for Shamu.
I know. I wish they made one of every kind. That would be wild.
It would be pretty funny.
And then the other cool Pokemon in here is Jinx from Unified Minds. That has an ability that lets you move a single damage counter from one Pokemon to another. So if you're building Spite on the wrong thing, or you needed to put Spikemuth damage on to like a Jirachi that you switched, you can move it around a little bit. You have adaptable damage. Then the trainer count is 4 Research, 3 Boss's Orders, 3 Bird Keeper. Those are your supporters. Bird Keeper's in here, of course, for the switching, as expected. Then you've got 4 Escape Rope, 4 Quick Ball, and here's the other thing from Battle Styles. Spiritomb benefits from the reprints, basically. That's really all that it gets from here. It's got the Escape Rope reprint, which is, again, switching, and the Level Ball reprint, which lets you find Spiritomb. Like, I think, looking through this, the only Pokemon that are not huntable by Level Ball are Crobat, Dedenne, and Oricorio. Everything else can be found with Level Ball, and you don't have to pay a cost or anything. You just go find it. And you play the Marshadow from Unbroken Bonds in here, because that lets you kill a stadium. It's basically Chaotic Swell proof, because you need those Spikemuth. The deck does not function without a Spikemouth in play. So to make it so you don't have to play 2, you've got to have the Marshadow to pop that Chaotic Swell Stadium immediately. Again, back to the trainers, though. Scoop Up Net, 4 of them. 4 switch. 2 Ordinary Rod to recycle your Spiritomb and Darkness energy, because you're gonna need them. You're gonna go through them. And then, of course, 4 Cape of Toughness, 4 Spikemouth, 4 regular basic Darkness energy, and 4 Hiding Darkness energy, which give you free retreat to make switching, again, even easier. This deck is wild. And you, like I said, this is not a deck that you can just approach and expect to be good at the first couple of games. You have to have your order of operations down exactly in order to get the right damage counters, in order to play the right switching cards in the right order. This is definitely warranting a Texas or Alaska size brain to get this deck to really go on all cylinders.
Man,
but it's wild.
You just talking about this deck makes it sound so fun. I'm so excited to grab myself a playset.
They're expensive. I'll tell you that right now.
Really?
Especially on TCGO. Like a single Spiritomb's like 8 packs.
Oh, man.
Because people realize how freaking good it is.
That's upsetting. Well, it can't be anything more than an uncommon, right? Or is it a rare?
I don't know. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. So, we'll move on.
Your turn.
Yeah, my turn. Okay. So, this one actually has a recurring Pokemon from a previous Venusaur best in the deck, which I find fantastic. But this deck is the Tapu Koko VMax with Electrode and Omastar. So, this deck focuses on using a combination of Tapu Koko, Electrode, and Omastar to try and force the opponent's active to stay in for 2 to 3 turns so you can knock it out, while limiting your opponent's hand size and therefore their options to get out of the active. Ideally, you have Tapu Koko, then you VMax him on the next turn, or whenever you can throw that out there. But you place your energy for your turn, and then you make Electrode self-destruct, and he does what he does, blows up and goes and gets 2 lightning energy, and then you throw him on the Tapu Koko. And now Koko has all the energy it needs to swing its attack max shot for 180, which also has a secondary effect, which is part of the whole thing here, where if your opponent has less prize cards than you, then it leaves the active paralyzed. So
that's how it works.
Yeah.
That's why you do Electrode with it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because then the Electrode dies, and then they've got 1 less prize card that they just picked up. So now they're lower than you are, and
my word!
And now you're paralyzing every single time that you swing. And the right. Okay. So then it leaves the opponent's active paralyzed. So Omastar here, he comes in handy because his ability stops your opponent from using item cards if they have more Pokemon on the bench than you.
Oh my god, which they will, because you're killing your own Pokemon!
Exactly. So,
oh my gosh!
So this effectively leaves only... so if Omastar's out, this effectively leaves only 2 supporters, Birdkeeper and Mallow and Lana. Mallow and Lana's 1 card, to remove their Pokemon from the active.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then you're using Marnies and reset stamps to help limit their hand size, which gives them less options during their turns.
Oh my god, and the reset stamp combos with the Electrode.
Yes.
Oh, I hate this deck. Oh, I hate it.
Isn't it? Oh man, it's delicious.
Oh, I would be so mad if I was playing against this, but so happy if I was playing it.
So there are obvious problems with this deck. One of the more important being its weakness to fighting. Urshifu.
You got something in your throat there.
Yeah. Now, so why did I choose this deck? 1, because it's spicy.
Oh yeah.
And 2,
oh my gosh, yeah.
And 2, because it actually works. So, by not being able to use the items increases the likelihood that they add Pokemon with abilities to the bench also, which helps, which goes against their best interest, obviously, with Omastar's whole deal. And then you've also got them by the tendies with some meta-relevant one-hit KOs to support pokes like Crobat V and Eldegoss V.
That's a good number. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, that's just the 100 HP for both of those. And those are in like so many different decks as well. So basically, how you want to do it is you want to utilize the two utilizing two electrodes powers up two Tapu Kokos in 2 turns with all the right pieces.
Wow.
And then once the first Koko goes down, you've got everything to start the Death of 1,000 Cuts all over again.
Death of 1,000 Cuts. Yep.
It's like, it's so funny. So like technically, for like a Urshifu V or whatever, like, it would only be, like 3 hits to kill it, which is a lot. But I call it Death of 1,000 Cuts because it's also wounding your pride as this is going on.
Yep.
And you're just getting salty while all this is happening to you. And
so
then,
angry.
And then once the first Koko goes down, you've got everything to start it all over again. And also, even if they, like, after they take out that Pokemon, you're still, if you've taken one out before then, you're still behind on prize cards, which then means that you're still doing, leaving them paralyzed after every hit.
Oh.
The
Permapara and reset stamp to 1.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Vomit.
Isn't this beautiful?
Oh, I hate it.
Ah, it's so ugly and beautiful at the same time. Okay, so this deck needs a lot of stuff to make it work. Energy denial is something to consider, but with the pieces, with all the pieces you need to make it work, you want to make sure you're not adding to the potential clunkiness. And also, to be clear, it's not great, but it's also not horrible. It's just really, 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 really trying its Venusaur best.
Hey.
There's
the title. There it is.
All right. Okay, so that'll be the show for the day. Or for the month.
For the day, too.
For the day, too, yeah. Seth, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, my pleasure. I get to gush about random decks that are doing great and some memes every now and again.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoy it.
All right, and thank you all for listening. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
It's closing time in Lavender Town. Time to say our goodbyes. It's closing time. Farewell, my friends. I'll catch you on the flip side.